everyone. Carissa here, Mono County's youth librarian. I just wanted to take a moment and make sure you're comfortable using our online catalog. Since we have gone back to call ahead pickup service only, and we have a reading challenge going on, challenging us to read books like us, I wanted to make sure you knew how to search the online catalog using these very fancy things called subject terms. Don't be alarmed. They actually work just like hashtags since we've digitized our catalogs. Yes, our catalogs used to be long drawers with cards in them, which you might remember if you're at least in your 30s. Otherwise, we've digitized like the rest of the world. And I just want to make sure you guys still know how to search using these subject terms because it can really help you hone in on a book that you'd like to read dealing with issues that are meaningful to you. So let's go ahead and zoom in. Okay, so when you are on our website, you're going to go ahead and click right here on my account / online catalog. You do not need to be logged in order to search the catalog. So your search bar is up here at the top, and I'm just going to point out a few things to you. You can search the catalog in general, and that will do a keyword search. That means that the word that you type in there needs to show up anywhere in the information that we have for the entry of that book in our catalog. And I'll refer back to that later so that you know what that entry includes. You can search for the title, you can search for an author, and you can search for a subject. And this is what I'd like to show you in more detail. This is where we will type our subject in. Yes, dysfunctional families is my favorite subject term because I grew up in one. And finally, over here, you can specify if you want to look at a specific library collection, or you can look at all libraries, or you can refine this later. So I'm going to look for all of the books that we have on dysfunctional families. The thing about subject terms is that they are predefined terms. So the publishing house chooses which subject terms get tagged with which book. They're really like hashtags, but instead of anyone snapping them or attaching them to their post or their photo, publishers do this officially. So we have 100 results of books that have the subject term dysfunctional families. But in this list, I have all the books in our collection for all ages at all libraries, which isn't going to work for me if I'm 13-year-old Carissa looking for a book that I can relate to. So what you can do, say, on the one hand, the reading challenge already got started and I don't have time for a book to come down from Bridgeport and I live in Mammoth Lakes. So I can refine my search by clicking on Holding Library, Mammoth Lakes. That means all of the books in my list with the subject term dysfunctional families will be held at Mammoth Lakes Library. Now I'm going to come down and to item types. I am not quite a young adult yet because I'm 13-year-old Carissa. This is something that we have separated only in the last year at Mammoth Lakes Library. I believe Lee Vining is the only other library in the county that has done this already, but we've started to separate youth from young adult. Young adult generally designates books appropriate for 15 to 18-year-olds. A youth book is from a child that's starting to read on his or her own up until about 14. So I'm now going to specify I want a youth book at Mammoth Lakes Library that has to do with dysfunctional families. And here, well, The Land of Forgotten Girls. I haven't read this one yet, but I have been meaning to. So you can see here, dysfunctional families is highlighted. That's how our subject search found this book. If you scroll down, you can get a summary of the book, either in the entry, this is the entire entry, or you can click on title notes. So It's a novel. Abandoned by their father and living in poverty with their heartless stepmother in Louisiana, two sisters from the Philippines, 12-year-old Sol and 6-year-old Ming, learn the true meaning of family. So, when you do that keyword search, when you don't specify subject and just type it in library catalog, it's looking for the word that you typed in anywhere in this entry. But when I type in a subject, it's looking specifically for one of these subject terms. So you can't just type in any old willy nilly term. You have to be familiar with what is designated as a subject term. That's the tricky part. The easy part, they're all hyperlinked. So, say I read this book and I'm like, ooh, this is interesting. But now I'm a little bit more interested in looking at, I don't know, social issues, emigration and immigration. So now if I click on that, I'm going to get all the books in our collection that share the subjects juvenile fiction, social issues, and emigration and immigration. For example, Operation Frog Effect. This is a new one in our collection. I quite like it. This one really stresses a lot of social responsibility, and there's a beautiful relationship between the teacher and her students. So maybe 13-year-old Carissa is feeling very inspired by a teacher or frustrated. Maybe that subject term means something to me, teacher student relationships. And here I have all the books that deal with teacher and student relationships. And something else noteworthy, you can usually see the publisher and the publication date. So if you're looking for a newer read, that's where you're going to look first. But that's more or less it. They are hyperlinked hashtags for library book entries. So if you see any other subject terms that interest you, this one will probably be quite large. Middle schools, juvenile fiction. You can see adoption is one. We can look at middle schools, juvenile fiction. And then you're going to pull up books that deal with characters in middle school. Let's see how many we get for that. And we have 106 results that have middle schools as their subject term. So that's about it for now. I just wanted to make sure that you guys all knew subject terms are your friends. If you learn how to use them, it's really as easy as hashtagging. It's just that those subject terms are decided upon and designated by publishers. Um, that's it. If you guys have any questions or need help finding the book that's a good fit for you or your kids or your grandparents or your cousins, don't hesitate to give your library a ring and we'll be happy to help you out. Take care. Happy reading. And don't forget to include that hashtag, Mono Reads.